trying to.
What makes, oops, I'm going back to full screen. Hold on. Sorry. All right, our audience, bear with me. This is my first day doing these shows. This is my fourth show. So that's the first one I didn't open up correctly. But hey, what makes your kids tick? And what if they knew what made you tick? What if everyone in your family knew exactly how to listen to one another, how to love one another, how to support one another? I mean, what would that look like? And how could you do it in a way that was magical to each person on an individual level? Most of us know the book, The 5 Love Languages. Anyone who knows me knows that it is absolutely one of my most favorite books of all time. I give it out all the time. And I do that because I know we think about it for couples, but today we're going to talk about how it's also so relevant for families. So today on the show that we are going to dig into the 5 love languages, which was written by Gary Chapman, who I think just did a phenomenal job of outlining this book in terms of how, because there's even a quiz that a family can take inside of the book itself. But we're going to talk about how it can transform any relationship. My name is Cheryl Bassett, and I am the founder of Unstoppable Connections. I'm creator of the award-winning Unstoppable Family Placement Toolkit, and I get to share something around the 5 love languages today. And I'm excited about that because I have something that I share, which is the 4 gifts. And those 4 gifts are something that help a family to become an unshakable, unbreakable. They create a connection that creates a trusting bond for life. So we're going to talk about that and how families can tap into that. And if they want to, you can go to my website, which is unstoppableconnections.com. And if you want to be on the show or you have an idea for the show, you can also go to kitchentableconversations.com. But our show today is Kitchen Table Conversations. I am your host. And what we're going to do is we're going to set an intention for the show, just like we do. We're going to do this for every show. And that intention is that we want to celebrate the person that's coming on today. So we tap into one of my gifts that I do get to share, which is the 4th gift, which is the gift of love, which is learning to celebrate ourselves and others. And it is in that spirit that we come with an open heart, an open mind, and that we celebrate the person who has come to share with us today, which you already had a sneak preview of because I had her on screen in the beginning, but you now officially meet her, and she's laughing in the background. Bless her heart. I adore her, and I'm going to read a little bit of her bio, and then I'm going to bring her on again, and you're going to act like you've just seen her for the very first time. Okay. Tamie Wilson is a holistic coach and inspirational speaker in the fields of personal and professional development. She helps people discover and cultivate their authentic selves through self-awareness and a holistic approach. Tamie's specialty is helping people get their ideal mate and building lasting relationships. Tamie was a TV consultant for the Ohio News Network. She was also a radio consultant for talk radio. She was featured in Just Women magazine, the Columbus Dispatch, and Columbus Alive. She's from my hometown. She's been doing this for 20 years. And when I say hometown, I'm actually from East Liverpool, Ohio, and I'll give a shout out to that. But most of my life was spent in Columbus, Ohio, which is near and dear to me. And that is where Tamie is. So now let me bring her in. And you can see her again. Yay. Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. So you're going to love Tamie's energy, and you're going to love how we just let this conversation roll. She's such a beautiful heart. And that's why she's so good at what she does, right? Helping people find their ideal mate. But before we jump in to the 5 love languages, which, I feel like we could probably talk about for days. But obviously we all get started doing what we're doing for a reason. And everybody sort of has a story and why they got passionate about what it is that they do. So what led you to become, this person that wants to help people have these really amazing relationships?
Wow, that's a really good question. Honestly, I had an extremely toxic, abusive marriage. And, it was so difficult for me because in my heart and in my spirit, I knew it was wrong for me. But, I kept listening to other people outside of me. Oh, relationships are difficult. They take work. And, that's just normal and that's common. And I just kept listening to all of what everyone perceived to just be normal behavior. But for me, I knew it was wrong, but I didn't really know what to do about it. And so I finally got out of that horrible relationship, and it really started my journey to really just kind of discover the truth, what I really knew to be true. And so in that journey, um, everything that I knew that I knew that I knew, you know how Oprah says, you know that you know. And so what I knew to be true was that, you know, when you're with the right person, it's not a lot of work. When you're with the right person, it's really easy and effortless, and it's reciprocal, and it's mutual, beautiful, wonderful love. And, you know, when you look around at a restaurant, or if you think of the relationships that you identify in your life, there's really just a few that really stand out, that are just really like the diamond in the rough. And that is what I want to help people achieve. And that is what I've helped people achieve. And so I've created this process to help people get that kind of relationship. And this is where the love languages is just so pivotal in my work, because you know, we've all had those relationships where it's like, well, you know, I told you, if you could just do this, then it would just make me so happy, you know. And that person, they'll do it for, you know, a couple weeks or a couple months or something, but that is not their natural way to express love. And so what I discovered from the 5 love languages is that if you're with the person that it is their natural way to express love, is your natural way to, you know, receive love, that is where the beautiful match really begins. And so that is, you know, the absolute foundation part of my work, is to help people identify, you know, what their love language is. Because if you are not with someone who can love you how you need to receive it, then you're always going to have that deficit. You're always going to have this going on. And
Right.
that just, you know, life is already challenging enough than to, you know, add on to it with your partner. They're supposed to make your life easier and, you know, easier. So, you know, that's really what I try to do, and by
Well,
helping people.
so you're bringing up a number of points. One is that sometimes we get into this situation where we think we should accept less than we deserve, and that's the wrong thinking out of the gate, right? We know that, but some of us are already in relationships, and you know, obviously, you look at them, and there's like so much that's right about them, but then there's these disconnects that happen. And I do think that the 5 love languages does such an amazing job of bridging that gap, and you know, I mean, I was laughing at one of your comments because it made me think of something. When I first read the 5 love languages, and this was in my first marriage, my second marriage is just beautiful and I adore him. And then, but my first marriage was like a disconnect, right? And so when I read the love languages, I would leave it out on I would highlight what I thought he needed to read, and then I would leave it out on the table because I was going to change you know, I just laugh about that now because it's absurd.
Your project, right?
Right. But I also think back to, well, what if I would have had a better understanding, right, of what if I'd had a better understanding of what made him feel special? What if he'd had a better understanding of what made me feel special? Because, you know, sometimes how we give love and receive love doesn't always, as you know, it doesn't match up, right? So, so you're bringing up some really like, how do we take this book and apply it? Because obviously our kids too, and I know you have a son. I have 2 sons. I have 2 stepdaughters, you know, and I could look at all 4 of them and say they're all like night and day, like, and everything in between, right? So what makes them excited about life?
Right.
And fills up there, as I think it's what they feel like, you fill up the love tank, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So when
I mean, you bring up a really good point. And so it is absolutely important that if you're already in a relationship, that you do understand what your love language is and what your partner's love language is. And then for those single parents out there, you know, if you're looking for a relationship, if you can have this understanding before you even enter a relationship, then you're better off if you can find someone that, you know, naturally, you know, gives love how you need to receive it. And that's the only point I was trying to make. But yes, the book is excellent in helping people really kind of, you know, bridge that gap or fill in those, you know, identify what those issues are.
Yeah. And so So the book, which I cannot believe it, but I always have a copy of this book on hand, and I do because I give it out as gifts. So I go and buy 3 or 4 at a time usually, and then when someone's getting married, or I just think like it would impact someone's life, I go and put this book right out there, and I give it as a gift. I might get them something else. It's not like the only thing I give them sometimes, but they get this book because it's just a wonderful place to start, right? Especially if you're just starting out on that journey. But you're right. What if they got the book before they were out looking? And I think that's your start point. And I get that because you're helping people find that perfect person. But obviously we all get into relationships, and understanding that love language and with our children is just so powerful. So when you work with someone,
really bring out your child's best, if you can, do that, that's really wonderful.
So let's talk about, so what do you think is your child, like if you were looking at your son, because I know like exactly my 2 boys, right? Like, what's your son's love language?
Anthony is very much into the affirmations and also gifts. Those are his 2 biggest ones.
Those are his 2 biggest ones. So just so we do this real quick, because I think this will be important for our audience, and we can cover these a couple times, but it's words of affirmation, acts of service.
Mm-hmm.
These are the 5 love languages: receiving gifts, which you just mentioned, quality time, and physical touch.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously, if you know that words of affirmations, and I can totally relate to that, because my oldest son Brian is the same way. Lift him up, tell him he can do something, empower him, give him, that courage, or I don't even think courage is the right word, but let him know that he can achieve anything, and he's lifted. Believe in him, and he'll believe in himself.
Exactly. And I see it in the teachers. And I noticed that when Anthony is with a teacher that is just one of those hard-nosed, negative type of people, he does not do well in those classrooms. And I find it so interesting, because I was the same way. I just think that's so funny. And I try to tell the teacher in the beginning of the year, what he needs. And, some teachers get it and some don't, that's what's really sad. And, if the school system could adopt this philosophy, I mean, it's really amazing what they could really achieve.
Yeah. So your love language then, is your love language words of affirmation?
Yeah, that, and I would also say physical touch too.
Physical touch. Yeah. Mine is, probably more quality time, and physical touch, but like, I know for some, like it works, like if somebody does something and they upset you and then they bring you a gift, like that would solve it all. But for me, it's like, no. Like we're going to spend time together. I want to have that connection. You're not going to just hand me a gift and say, oh, I'm sorry, and here's a gift, by the way, but we don't ever have to talk about it. No. We have to talk about it.
Right.
Right? Yeah. That's quality time. So I think understanding those things, right, is just so important. But I can tell you, the first time I ever read, I did the 5 love languages, but there is the 5 love languages for kids. I don't know if you've read that one or not, but there's actually
I haven't. Yeah.
Okay. So the 5 love languages for kids, and it's, it's the same thing, right? It's just a different quiz, and it's a little different inside, but for the most part, it's the same exact 5 love languages. Right. Just different stories surrounding them.
Right.
But before I read the 5 love languages, I used to drag, like I looked like one of those, like people just dragging my leg with like a ball and chain across. And those who are listening to this on podcast, you can't see it, and you're lucky. But anyway, but that's how I felt. And it was David hanging onto my leg. Mm-hmm. Right. And I would be like, oh my God, could this kid just please stop clinging to me like this? And so I felt there was resistance there, and you can't have that resistance, right? But he would cling to me. And so we'd had this like tug of war relationship going on a little bit when he was really young. And then all of a sudden, when I read the book, I thought, oh my gosh, like what his love language is the same as one of yours, which is physical touch. Right. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to carve out in the morning 15 minutes that's going to be his time, and he can sit on my lap, he can crawl on my head, it doesn't really matter, but we're going to be, if we read a book, he can, you know, be right next to me. And to this day, when we take a walk, David walks me off the sidewalk because he walks so close, right? But once I figured, but once I figured that out, that little change, and it wasn't a shift that happened over a long period of time. It was a shift that happened overnight. Like literally we started that, and then he felt fulfilled because I was giving him that unconditional love language that made his heart sing. And so if you look at your children and you think, wow, geez, I treat them both the same way, and one responds well and the other one doesn't. And it's because you need to understand their love language, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So when you work with someone and they get into this love language discussion, and you help them do that, what else do you like? What else do they dig into? Like
when they're working with me?
Yeah.
I help people figure out, well, the first thing that I do is I help people heal their love life. You know, I don't care how old you are. Everyone's suffered some type of heartbreak, and most people do. And so the first thing I do is I help people heal their love life, heal their past heartbreak, and then we start from scratch. So I help them figure out what they really want and need in a partner, and then we figure out, you know, what their love language is, and we figure out what their goals and desires in life. I mean, it's really just a personal transformation from the inside out. And so I take them through this personal healing growth process. And then by doing that, and then helping them figure out what they really want and need in a partner, their whole life just really changes. I mean, it's really amazing because people will go from jobs that they absolutely hate. And this starts from them working with me with their love life, but it's really helping them live a more happy, more fulfilled life. And that it really comes in part with their whole entire life. So that, you know, to be really happy, truly, and fulfilled in life, you need to figure out, you know, your love, your work, you know, yourself, your health, you know, every area. And so that's what I do. So we start with them. I figure out what they really want and need in a partner, and how they, you know, their love language. And then we figure out what their goals and desires and dreams are. And, you know, Cheryl, it's so amazing to me. I do not have to match make. I don't have to do it, because once we figure out all of that stuff, once we heal their past, once we detox all their negative thoughts and beliefs about love and relationships and people, you know, oh, you know, men are liars and cheaters. Once we get rid of all that negative stuff, you know, that right person just shows up in their life, and it's just awesome. It's really awesome. Sometimes I don't have to do anything.
Realize we're blocking it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they just show up. And then, you know, I had one client, she met and married her ideal mate within 6 months. And that was over 10 years ago. And they're still blissfully happy. I'm not even joking. They're so happy. They're one of those people that you're just like, wow, they just really work, you know? Everything is just beautiful with them. And I love it. I love helping people achieve that.
Yeah, no, I think that's beautiful. And I think I'm also feeling like that same exact concept. So I had someone on the show earlier today who was talking about how a family can create a dream statement, right? And a lot of that is like, you know, really trying to understand, like, how do we, like, what are our needs and what are our wants and what's our dream look like, you know, and kind of getting into that I am, and really understanding who they are. And she walked through this beautiful process, but I feel like the 5 love languages and like some of the things that you're talking about are just all pieces of that happen, because when a team comes together and has that same synergy, right? That's when like it could be a work team. It can be your family, because that's probably the most important team that we'll ever put together, right? But we don't get to pick, like, and this is what I love about it, but you don't get to pick your kids. Like, I can't say, boy, you know, my kid's going to be like this love language, and it'd be really nice, right? Because we could just pick the one for us to give. But it really does take that understanding to reach out and to, you know, for Dave. And here's a beautiful story about how this can happen too. And I'm sure this is true for couples, but when you really understand it, right? When you really know what makes the other person feel fulfilled, David, we talked about it, and he started to understand that Brian's love language was these words of affirmations. So David, without me saying a word, and of course they were a little bit older, but he would start writing Post-it notes and leaving it on Brian's door and stuff. Like, you're going to do awesome on your interview today, or you're going to be great at this, or, how wonderful.
Simple thing.
Yeah. And that was coming. And that's because we were a team. And I think, I think that's the piece that, because again, I love what you're doing, which is kind of like, hey, before you go mess all this up and marry the completely wrong person, right? So you're sort of on that,
because we all do.
I'm in my second marriage, right? And part of it is figuring out what you don't want, so you know what you do want. And sometimes what you think you want and what you end up not wanting are two different things too. So it's a journey.
Totally.
Yeah. But when you're
the other thing, as far as families go, I really help families create like a mission statement, and what I help them identify what their true morals and values are as a family. So that kind of goes apart with what you were saying, about the other person that you were speaking with earlier.
Yeah, we did a
I think that's important to have like a family motto, things that you really stand for. And kindness is, being a loving person is something that I've really worked with my son about. We're just really loving people, and you be kind to people. And if you see that person sitting by themselves, or if you see other kids being mean to them, you be nice to them, and
right.
And I'm happy to say my son, he is a kind person.
Right.
He is such a good kid. He won a iPad from school, and he gave it to his best friend. His best friend is one of 4 kids. His parents, they weren't like affluent or anything. And so that was like a luxury item, and Anthony already had 1 or 2. So he gave it to him, and I thought, wow, we got a good thing going here. He's a good kid.
You're hitting into something that, I think the 2 things that just keep resonating with me is that we all need to be standing in a state of being grateful. And through that gratefulness, I think that we need to be kind to one another. Yeah. And I love that. And I only met Anthony briefly, but you know what? I could almost like feel that coming from him. So, which is just beautiful. My son David. My son David is sort of the same. Like he's just kind, and it's not that Brian's not, he is too, but David he sees, it's almost like he's intuitive to understand how other people are feeling, and not so much that he takes it on, but that he sees where he could be something that would be a positive thing that he could do in their life. So I think standing in that awareness, but that then gets back to, again, and I'll use a couple example, my dad, sometimes I say, you can say anything you want about someone as long as you bless their heart. So my dad, bless his heart.
I had a friend that would do that.
But he's passed away, and I learned so much from him, and I adore him. But he was in a relationship one time, and I was the bystander watching this happen. And she was saying, Tom, which was his name, could you just show me how to start the lawnmower? Because I want to go out and cut the grass. And my dad said, well, you don't need to do that. I'll do that for you, and he said, so don't worry about it. Well, she goes, no, I'm not worried about it. I actually just want to go out and cut the grass. Could you just tell me how I go do that? And he'd say, well, no, like, don't bother yourself with that. I will just do it for you. Just give me time. I'm finishing up something else. And so I watched it. And then by the time this was over, this back and forth, she goes, you never listened to me. And his response was, it doesn't matter how much I do for you. It's never enough. And I thought, because she's wanting to feel, she wants affirmation in that moment. Empower me. Tell me how I can go cut the grass, and let me go do it, and empower me to go do it. And instead, my dad, because he's so much about giving acts of service, that's how he gives love, right? That they were like, and I just watched this happen, and I was like going, oh my gosh, like, so.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. But when you start to see that and understand that, and understand, and the same thing with your kids as well, the same way that I would try to support Brian is not the same way that I would try to support David.
Right.
He wanted to do something, right? So it's just, I think it's such a beautiful thing to tap into and to learn. And if you don't have the book, and you're not, if you are on the if you're in that space right now, you need to touch with Tamie about like, I'm right now in that space of looking for my ideal mate. Yeah, right. So Tammie's your person. That is the person to go to. If you're already in a, a relationship and you're trying to navigate some of this and figure it out, or you've got kids that, you're trying to figure all those things out, man, go get the book. There's the 5 love languages for children. And I know we're supporting that. And I'm going to tell you how you can get in contact with Tamie too, because this is important, with her sharing her message, because man, if we could like proactively match people up in the beginning, right? The world would be just like so much better place.
That is exactly my goal, Cheryl. You just nailed it.
I just nailed it all. Yeah. So anyway, but I when I met Tamie, I loved her heart. In fact, she said something that I just absolutely love, which is, and I think this plays into it, but that world peace starts with personal peace. You said, and I don't know if that's your quote, but I love it. And the fact that you say that.
Yeah, I believe that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And some of that,
because I mean, it is so amazing to me. I just have to say this because people will spend hundreds of $1,000s on college and go to college for 4, 8, 10 years or more, right? To get a degree. But not very many people take the time or money to invest in themselves and their love life. But that's the partner that you're supposed to be with till death do you part. And it amazes me that they don't even bother to figure out, what do I really want and need? What's really important to me? And, what would really work with me or not work with me? And, those things are just really, really important, especially when you're talking about a life partner. And if you think about, someone who makes, $250,000 a year and they have to give up 50% of that, they can still have a decent living. But if you're making 60, and that's going to take you, take your house and your child. And it is absolutely vital that you are really with someone that is really a good match for you. I'm not saying that no one will ever get divorced. Of course, people change, things happen, whatever. But, if you can start with a good foundation, you're already ahead of the game. And that's really.
And that foundation, first and foremost, regardless of who the other person is on the other side of that equation, first and foremost is understanding yourself, right? If you have that foundation and you're always in tune with that, then you're going to be able to attract into your experience someone who's, going to be complementing that. I feel like my parents got divorced after 23 years and it was a complete nightmare. I sat in between them at age 18. I held both their hands and they were beautiful as individuals. But together they were a nightmare, right? They did not do the 5 love languages. I'm sure the book wasn't even written then, but the point is that, individually they were great, but everyone deserves to be in a relationship where they feel cherished. And that's with the person that you bring into your life and you choose to be your partner for life. But it's also with our family. Everyone who's sitting in that equation needs to feel cherished. And the best way I think you could cherish that person is by truly understanding what makes their heart happy. And I think that's why
it's such an easy thing.
Yeah, it really is. So this has been a beautiful conversation, of course, because we're talking about love. How could it not be?
Love, I love love.
Love, love. Love is love.
Always says that to me. You love, Tamara. So, I do. I can't help it.
It's the highest vibration out there, right? Love. So
it is. Yeah. So, can't go wrong with that. But I mean, think about it. So when you're in a relationship or a marriage and people that are having a hard time or people that are going through divorce, I mean, it just spews that negativity everywhere, and it's like a fungus or I don't even know, you know what I mean? It's like a virus, and sickness, because then they're nasty to people around them. And that's what I'm talking about, because if you can have that personal peace and you learn about yourself and you heal your past, then you're not going to be looking at everyone you date or and have a relationship with through a wounded filter. That is really vital, because if you are perceiving life and that person through that wounded filter, you're never going to be happy, because you're always going to see or look for something to be wrong. And that's why it's important to heal those things so you can have a nice clean slate, have that personal peace, and then be able to achieve that with your relationship. um I'm telling, my goal is to help reduce the divorce rate. That's what I'm really, trying to do here. So
Good. Beautiful goal. That's a beautiful goal. So let me, I'm going to throw up here on the screen for everybody. This is Tammie's website, and Ideal Love Doctor. And by the way, don't forget the L on Ideal, because the first time I typed it in, I did, and I went to the Idea Love Doctor, which there's nothing wrong with
and
that.
it's not just Love Doctor, it's Ideal, because I want to help you get your ideal.
Yes. So that's her website. Is that how they can easily get in touch with you?
Yes.
Okay.
There, or social media, it's just Ideal Love Doctor. Also, it's at Ideal Love Doctor. They can find me there on Facebook, Instagram,
Okay.
Twitter.
Okay, perfect. So for those who may not be seeing this, but listening, it is Ideal, IDEAL, love. We all know how to spell that, LOVE, doctor, spelled out, DOCTOR.com. So ideallovedoctor.com. And that's how you can find Tamie. You can get on there and connect with her. And I think, do you have something also on there that they can download or?
Yes, I have my online course if they're interested, for those singles that are looking for their ideal mate and they want to get married. I have a course that they can go through. Also, if they just want to download the worksheets, those are on my website as well. That'll kind of work them through, identifying those different important things that they need to know about their partner and themselves. So.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, perfect. So with that, I like to close out every show with a drop of thought, which is a dot. And and what that just means is like, what's your final words of wisdom or your final pearl, wisdom of pearl that you want to leave? But really, what's your dot, your drop of thought that you want to leave with our viewers?
Oh, wow. You should have told me about that. I think it's really important to know that you're supposed to be happy and you're supposed to be loved, and that's okay. And you're allowed and you deserve it. And despite what other people think or have said to you or whatever, if for some reason you feel that you don't deserve that or you can't have it or it's not out there for you, it is. If you have that desire to be in a relationship, it is out there waiting for you. People that are meant to be alone want to be alone, And so if for people that are in a relationship, I just think it's really important to just stop and pause. That is just really important. Stop and pause before you speak or do or anything, because especially if you're in a heightened emotional state, So if you could just do that and just ask yourself, where am I at right now? What do I really need right now? And pay attention to that, and then speak, and make sure that you aren't just projecting what you need onto that person and tell them, well, you need help. Well, maybe it's really you that needs help. You know what I mean?
And there's a parting thought for you.
There's a parting thought. So
I love it. I love it. So, well, thank you for sharing today. Thank you for
having me on. I'm so excited. I'm real excited about what you're doing. I've always loved you. I've always believed in what your goal is and the kitchen table conversations. And we unplug when it's dinner time and we talk. And I have a great relationship with my son. And I teach him about visualization and positive thinking and all of that. It's really important. So.
And I'm going to go back to, I'm going to close the show out. Now we're getting feedback all of a sudden, but I'm going to go back to the close out the show with just saying this, because then it goes back to your son and that relationship that you do have. But I think it's really, this is my dot, and it's short and sweet because I had time to prepare. No, it's just how I want to close out every show, because it's the thought I want to leave everyone with. I thank you, Tamie, for being here and sharing your heart. You're beautiful, and you know how much I adore you.
Thank you.
But my thought is this: in a world where we can be anything, be kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously your son is part of that. So let's just go out and be kind to one another. But thank you so much for being here. And I'm sure we'll be talking soon. But everyone, thanks for watching the show today. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. So take care.
Wait. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.